Bonjour mon ami, bienvenue chez moi. Pourquoi je parle français? Je ne suis pas au Québec, je suis en Toronto. Aujourd'hui, je voyage à Toronto. Maintenant, je peux parler l'anglais. Allez!
What's up, basketball fans? Now I'm heading to the NBA opener for the Toronto Raptors tonight as they're about to take on the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, I'm originally from London, England, but I'm visiting my parents who live here in St. Catharines in Ontario. So at the moment, I'm leaving the house. St. Catharines, this is quite a nice town. It's a very, very quiet place. Oh, this is the best Vietnamese restaurant in all of Canada. Pho Ngon, you gotta try it. St. Catharines is a pretty cool town. Really chill place, really beautiful scenery. So I've got to get a bus from the center of St. Catharines and head to Toronto. The town's pretty cool, but one thing you should know is the Meridian Center, home of the CBL basketball franchise, the Niagara River Lions. Shout out to everybody at the River Lions. I'll be back in the summer. So I've now hit the bus. It's a long journey. Let's talk about Nick Nurse. You know Nick Nurse as the first coach to lead the Toronto Raptors to an NBA championship, whereas I know him as the guy who came to the United Kingdom to play for the Derby Rams and then be the head coach of the Birmingham Bullets in 1995. Nick, after a season in Belgium, would then come back to the British Basketball League where he was the head coach of the Manchester Giants. His closest rival and good friend was Chris Finch, who is currently the head coach of the Minnesota Timberwolves. Both Nick Nurse and Chris Finch coached the most successful teams in the British Basketball League, the Manchester Giants and the Sheffield Sharks. These two had some of the best matches. His next stop in the British Basketball League was head coach of the London Towers, one of the powerhouses of the British Basketball League. Nick would have 2 strong seasons with the London Towers, again proving to be one of the best coaches in Great Britain. Next after that, his final team was with the Brighton Bears. He moved to the south coast of England. Again, Nick transformed the Brighton Bears, who are a mediocre, bottom half, middle table British basketball team, to being a regular competitor competing for championships in the British Basketball League. So you can understand now, my whole life when I was younger, I always knew Nick Nurse as one of the greatest coaches in the British Basketball League. It's amazing now to see that he's actually one of the best coaches in the NBA. So for me, going to this game in the Toronto Raptors, there's a little bit of nostalgia here because it takes me back to my childhood. I'm an international basketball commentator. I've gone to Eurobaskets, FIBA World Cups, but why is this all so relevant to me? Well, my father, Mickey Bett, who's now living in Canada and coaching, he is a former player and coach as well in the British Basketball League, and he coached against Nick Nurse. Here he's playing for Crystal Palace, but his first break was when he coached the Thames Valley Tigers. 2-time Coach of the Year in 1993 and 94 of the British Basketball League, he would first coach against Nick Nurse in 1995. Yes, I'm from the UK. Yes, I'm British, but basketball is in my DNA. I get it from my father. So coming to Toronto, the first thing I ever wanted to do was to come and watch the Raptors play. Again, it's like nostalgia for me. I come from a basketball family. I knew Nick Nurse as a coach, not personally. My father used to coach against him. So coming to this game tonight, the home opener against the Cavaliers, this is everything that I love about the game of basketball. Now, my claim to fame, I played in front of Michael Jordan when I was 16 years old. I did play for the national team while I kind of sat on the bench. I played a little bit of high school basketball and a brief stint in the NCAA Division III. But again, I found my mark as an international basketball commentator. We've now arrived in Toronto. Already, I'm loving the sights of what I'm seeing. So here's some important information. If you're planning to go and watch the Toronto Raptors play, you'll arrive in a place called Union Station. It literally is next door to the Scotiabank Arena where the Raptors play. And there's a Raptors fan store right next door. This is going to be an Achilles heel for me because I'm absolutely obsessed with NBA jerseys, hoodies, t-shirts. This is my 3rd time coming to Canada, and I have loads of Raptors attire. I mean, look, I'm one of those guys from the 90s. I love Vince Carter, Tracy McGrady, Marcus Camby, Damian Stoudemire. You cannot be a basketball fan and not love the swagger of the Toronto Raptors from the 90s. Well, I ended up buying a new Toronto Raptors sweatshirt. I told you it's my Achilles heel. I'm absolutely obsessed with NBA attire. Well, I'm on my way to the hotel. It's about a mile walk here from Union Station. But my first impressions of Toronto, it's beautiful. Kind of reminds me a little bit of when I was in Boston back in 2010. I've arrived in Toronto. I'm just gonna drop my bag off at the hotel, get something to eat, come back. It's pretty cool. I am hungry. I'm on a seafood diet. That's right, I see food and I eat it. And if you're in Canada, there's only one place, and I mean one place, for a go-to meal. There's a rule of thumb. Whenever you come to Canada, especially Toronto, you gotta get Tim Hortons. That is a go-to meal all the time. We got it in the UK, but it's just not the same.
All right, checked into the hotel. I'm in the center of Toronto, on my way to the game. Toronto Raptors, baby, let's go.
If you're like me and you're born in the 90s, Toronto Raptors is definitely one of the teams you definitely like to affiliate with.
But my earliest memories of the Raptors, you got to understand, I'm old school. So I'm born in 1990. I used to grow up playing NBA Live in 96, 7, 8. I really like the old Raptors jerseys. And at that time, you had players such as Marcus Camby, Damian Stoudemire, Doug Christie. You know, that was the era of when Isaiah Thomas was the GM. Go a little bit into the early 2000s, you got some international players. You got the likes of, well, I say early 2000s, Luis Scola, then Jorge Garbajosa. Shout out to Jorge, president of the Spanish Basketball Federation. I don't know what to make of this team, of course, you know. Since they won the championship in 2019, it's, you know, I think it's a great franchise because you see year after year, they're always competing for playoff spots. Unlike, you know, some other teams, you know, like the Orlando Magic, who might have championship runs in the 90s and then fall off after Dwight Howard era. You know, it's the thing about the Raptors, they always remain very relevant. And that's what I appreciate about this franchise quite a lot. But we'll see. Tonight, I don't know, I can't put my mind on this because Cleveland, last year, that's the first time, God knows how long, they've been competitive without LeBron James on their team. Chetty Osman's in there. Shout out to Chetty for the Turkish national team. Shout out to Mehmet Okur as well, my guy. But it's tough. Donovan Mitchell. They lost Colin Sexton. You know, they lost Larry Malkin. I don't know. I can't predict this one. Just going to enjoy the game. But I got to tell you, Toronto is one of the most beautiful cities you'll find here in North America.
Before going to the game, I went to the Real Sports Bar where I met some Raptors fans. I gotta tell you, I made a lot of friends at the bar and all we talked about were the Toronto Raptors and just general life in Canada. Raptors fans, you guys are amazing. I also met with the Toronto Raptors commentator, former University of Michigan player and professional player in Europe, Javon Shepherd. Commentated this summer at the FIBA AmeriCup. Give him a follow on Instagram and Twitter. Great guy.
What time is it? Game time! Woo! Fans here are
Raptors by 7.
Raptors by 7. He's got 2 cats. What are the names?
DeRozan, Lowry.
Legends.